The following is a Gear Network presentation on iHeartRadio.
GearNetwork.com.
This is a Gear Network production.
I am the greatest. The greatest.
JC Money.
From the Gear Network Studios, it's the JC Money Podcast with your host, John Cimino, a.k.a. JC Money. And now, here's John.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the JC Money Show here on the Gear Radio Network's iHeartRadio channel. What is up? How's it going? My name is John Cimino at the JC Money on the Twitter and on Facebook, facebook.com/thejcmoney. And I'm going to go ahead and get right into the topics. But first, I must give some love to our Amazon page. It is shopgear.com. That's shopgere.com. Go, if you're going to shop on Amazon, please use my link and just go there and do that. It's no additional cost to you, no nothing. It helps sustain this program. It helps sustain this podcast. It helps sustain this network. Easy breezy Japanesey, my babies. Shopgear.com. That's the easiest way to support us and allows us to keep these spontaneous podcasts going, whether it's on the iHeartRadio channel or, like normal, released on Spreaker or iTunes or whatever platform that we have. All right, now, let's move on, shall we? Time to start the show, my babies. And as we start the show, I want to go ahead and say thank you to everybody for giving the iHeartRadio thing a chance, you know. And I think about it, and it's on me totally as the owner of the Gear Network, because I frequently push iTunes, Spreaker, Google Play, you know, those types of things. I push those types of things thinking that everybody has those means. Now, obviously, everybody either has an Android or an iPhone. So you do have Google Play or iTunes podcast capability, but everybody universally appears to have iHeartRadio, and because there's different channels that are on there. You can get normal radio, terrestrial radio streamed on there in great quality, and you can get a bunch of podcast channels and things like that on there. And we're on there, and I just thought, for the hell of it, it was just for the hell of it kind of thing. I wanted to see if we pushed an iHeartRadio exclusive podcast, how that would work. And to be perfectly honest with you, it has worked tremendously. Like, I completely underestimated the power of iHeartRadio and how many people actually have it. So thank you all for tuning in on iHeartRadio. Of course, if you're listening on iHeartRadio right now, or if it's after, you know, a certain amount of time, whether or not it's the same day or later on in the week, and you're listening to the downloaded version, you know, hey, more power to you. Love you just the same. But thank you all for giving iHeart on Gear a chance, and we are going to keep the content coming. We're going to keep the iHeart initiatives coming. Initiatives. Here I am talking about. I'm reading, and I'm slightly distracted by the guest that I have in studio, little Miss Emma, my 3-year-old, whom is watching Dora the Explorer right now and chanting along and singing along with Dora. So if you hear some songs in the background, I assure you that's not me singing, that's Emma. She's a much better singer than I am anyways. All right. But as far as the JC Money Show podcast, you know, I don't really know what the format is going to be yet, aside from just working our way to whatever it's going to be. I would like to get the JC Money Show to 2 podcasts a week, to 2 shows a week. So, you know, definitely on a Friday to start your weekend off, and either on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something like that. But I definitely want a show on Friday, just because I like Friday shows. I think it's kind of a good way to, you know, you look forward to the weekend. Oh yeah, when I hear that wacky, weird, crazy horn and JC saying this is an iHeartRadio podcast, I know the weekend's coming. So, but that's the idea for JC Money. I'd like to do the JC Money podcast. I'd like to do 2 podcasts a week under this format. And I would like to just talk about things. It doesn't necessarily have to be news. It doesn't have to be, you know, wrestling or sports. I don't know, whatever. I'd like to have guests on. I'd like to have a lot of different things. And in the weeks to come, that will come to fruition, I believe. I do have news to talk about today. And I'm going to preface this by saying, my last episode I discussed how much I am of a Trump supporter. I am not. I've made that very, very clear. And you know, you as a listener coming into this, you got to know, if you're a Trump supporter, you're probably not going to agree with anything that I say with regards to world news. What I come to find out is that you guys agree with a lot of the things I say outside of the political aspect of it, of life, which tells me that aside from politics, I mean, you know, and that's what really drives me crazy is politics really changes people's perspective. It's like politics and religion are two things that just make people go absolutely apeshit. I don't quite fully understand it. You know, people can have different opinions on politics. I welcome that. I understand that. People have different opinions on religion. I understand that as well. But just because one person has a different opinion on either topic doesn't mean you're right or wrong. Like for me, I grew up as a Catholic. So I had to go to church every Sunday. I had to do the Sunday school thing. I had to do all that crap. And as I grew older, and I'd like to say hit the age of reason, I had a lot of questions regarding religion, organized religion, the customs, the traditions, the Bible, things like that. And when I would ask these questions of my elders, whom instilled religion in me, it wasn't really my choice. I didn't have a choice when I was younger. It was, you're going to church. Well, why are we going to church? Because we're going to church. Okay, cool. Can't say anything. You guys feed me, you know. But I start asking questions, and if you ask with religion, if you ask 5 different people the same question about a topic in the Bible, you are going to get 5 different answers. And that was what bothered me, is that it was never anything concrete. It was never anything that could be factual or that it legitimately happened. It all seemed like it was a matter of opinion or a matter of interpretation. You have the other people who take the Bible and think that is literal. And to me, that's something that, again, impossible. It's absolutely impossible for those things to happen. I can get into that subject on another podcast or whatever. But the bottom line is that's my opinion. I ultimately worked my way to becoming an atheist, an agnostic one. I'm not saying that there isn't a higher power or whatever. I'm just saying that I would need some kind of proof in order to see it, in order to know, in order to believe that, or be convinced. And I had 32 or 33 years of religion trying to convince me, and me just kind of saying, yeah, this doesn't add up. So, but if you are of the mold where, you know, you believe what's in the Bible, you believe what's in the preacher, you believe in the message, or going to church, you know, that helps make you a decent person, or whatever positively contributes to the betterment of you, I am for. I don't think you're wrong if you are a quote unquote Bible thumper or whatever. I don't think you're wrong. That's your opinion. You are absolutely entitled to it, and I'm not going to criticize you for that. In the same way that I would hope you wouldn't criticize me for saying that I don't believe any of that stuff. But I digress. Same thing with politics. You know, Donald Trump has his supporters mainly from what's baffling to me is that it's lower income people really that are amazed by this guy and think that this guy has his best interest or has their best interest in his heart and you know, he's going to go to battle for us. And in the first 120 plus days, he has not done that. And yet it's not realized yet. I don't get it. So I think the purpose of my worldviews is going to be to kind of try to put it out there in a perspective that maybe you can understand, or maybe that everybody can universally understand. I've gotten some criticism about some of the language that I use. Not in the vulgar department. Because usually when I throw out vulgarities, it's in an effort to be funny. But my vocabulary with bigger words that, for some people have a span of, if it's a word that's, more than 4 letters, that's it. That's too big of a word. I don't want to hear that. But I'm going to try my best to just break things down, and I will have you know that I will do the research. And not only will I throw out news that actually happened, but I'll throw my comments in on there as well, and my comments might be biased. If you can't tell what the difference between what actually happened and what my personal thoughts are, or my comment is, keep on listening and eventually you'll get it. All right. So, before I go ahead and get into the news of the week, or of the early week, I should say, I do want to let you know that I have some interviews lined up, and I don't want everybody to think that it's just going to be a bunch of wrestlers on here, because, I got a lot of friends that are wrestlers, obviously, being that my background's in professional wrestling, but, these guys are smarter than everybody gives them credit for. A lot of these wrestlers that I have that I have are friends that are going to be interviewed ultimately on this show, are not just going to be talking about their wrestling. Like, that's the universal passion, with us, is we love wrestling, and we can talk about it for days. But we understand that not everybody would want to talk about wrestling. But that being said, I want to actually showcase their minds, their abilities. Like, these wrestlers that are in the ring wrestling, yes, they love wrestling, and yes, they say that is their life, but they have some extraordinary talents outside of wrestling that I think should be highlighted just as much as their wrestling. So, take Eric Eminon, for example. Eric Eminon travels every weekend, every other weekend, whatever, multiple states, multiple cities. He's going to be going, him and Tommy Brewington are going to be going to Atlanta very soon for a big tag team tournament, which is awesome. But Eric also runs a business, IndyCard Media, which you see a lot of the designs for the shows and things like that. Like, he will sit down and he will draw and he will break down and get down and dirty and put in the work to make a quality product. And I think that's cool. And you can't be a dummy and do that. Do it the way he does. Thomas Brewington, he's been to WWE as an extra, a few times. And will very likely be an extra again. But he's started up the Godzilla Gaming Network for video gamers. And I'm a video gamer. So I had to push the hell out of that for them on social media too. Because I like video games. I like reading what he puts out there. Pat G as well. Pat G is with him on that adventure. And that's cool. Big Cat Lemmer. Yes, he's now retired from pro wrestling, and I do want to get his story about that and everything. But aside from that, the guy is a fountain of knowledge for sports. He used to co-host a hockey show with Rob Sanderson called Drop the Puck on 1280 AM here in Rochester, New York. So, I want to highlight some of these other things too, not just wrestling. So for those of you that follow me from my wrestling crowd, believe me, I think there will be enough in there to keep you engaged as far as that. But if you want to get to know the guys a little more, stick around for that. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to kick it off to a commercial break, our first commercial break. When I come back, the news of last week, and then from there we will go to On a Lighter Note. This is the JC Money Show right here on Gear Network's iHeart channel and the Gear Radio Network. Father's Day is Sunday, June 18th, and if you haven't purchased a gift yet, head on over to our Amazon store at shopgear.com and find that perfect gift for your father, stepfather, or father figure in your life. Everything from lawnmowers, tools, grilling supplies, and more can be purchased and delivered right to his door, gift wrapped with a card, and everything, the whole nine. It's awesome. And if your dad is an electronic junkie like me, we have Amazon Fire tablets starting at just $49.99, and for a limited time, buy any 3 all-new Fire tablets, and Amazon's going to knock off an additional 20% from your order. We also have gift cards in any denomination, too, if Dad wants to pick out his own gift. What's more, by using our shopgear.com link to go to Amazon and make your purchases, you help support this program at no additional cost to you. That's right, no gimmicks, my babies. Just use our link and shop Amazon. Have it delivered in 2 days or less with Prime. Make Dad happy and support a small business all at once. Win-win-win for everybody. As always, thank you for bookmarking, saving, and sharing our Amazon link at shopgear.com. IndyCard Media is your one-stop shop for quality designs at a quality price. They offer merchandising, company branding, event posters, custom clothing designs, and so much more. Check out their gallery of past designs by visiting facebook.com/IndyCard Media and tell them what you think. That's IndyCard Media, 337-446-4331 or IndyCardMafia@gmail.com. Tell them that we sent you. Again, 337-446-4331. IndyCard Media. Bring your designs to life. Welcome back to the JC Money Show, everybody. Here is the news that you need to hear. It's not necessarily Dawn's news you may or may not be able to use. That is reserved for Get Ready America. But as far as the news you need to hear, here we go. Donald Trump had his first overseas trip both during and since the last podcast was released. His first stop was Saudi Arabia, where he and the Saudi Crown Prince King Salman signed a weapons deal worth close to $110 billion, and an agreement which would support the long-term security of the Gulf region in the face of certain threats, says the White House. From there, he went to Israel to meet with leaders from Israel and Palestine to attempt to reinvigorate the stalled peace process between the two nations. He wants peace in the Middle East, my babies. For those unaware, Israel is the world's only Jewish state, located just east of the Mediterranean Sea. Palestinians, the Arab population that hails from the land Israel now controls, refer to the territory as Palestine and want to establish a state by that name on all or part of the same land. The Israeli-Palestine conflict is over who gets what land and how it's controlled. After that came to a trip to the Western Wall, where it was reported that Donald Trump was the first sitting U.S. president to visit the Wall, which is a place in Jerusalem where Jews can pray. This, of course, was twisted into Trump being the first, quote, U.S. president to visit the Wall. The former was true. He was, in fact, the first sitting U.S. president to visit the Wall. The latter was false. Presidents Obama, Bush, and Clinton have each visited the Wall, just not while they were in office. Nevertheless, that did not stop Fox News and Trump supporters from boasting about both the actual fact and the fiction. He then visited Bethlehem, the Vatican, in which the Pope talked to Trump about climate change, among other things, came together, if you call it that, with NATO leaders in Belgium, Brussels, where he was met with protesters that were saying phrases like Europe united against Trump, and Stop Trump, Save the Planet. And he also made a complete ass of himself at the NATO's leaders meeting before finally finishing his trip in the Sicilian town of Taormina, if that's how I pronounce it. I don't know. I'm pretty terrible with pronouncing foreign names, but with the G7 summit. Republicans deemed the trip a success, Trump even calling it a, quote, home run. The Democrats were not thrilled because Trump gave indications, again, that he would be withdrawing from the Paris Climate Change Agreement as he hinted in the past, despite members of his administration saying that his views on the subject are evolving. Trump still sees big bucks in bolstering fossil fuels, particularly the coal industry. Meanwhile, other countries which have committed to the agreement are in the midst of incorporating natural green energy to their respective lands, like solar roofs and all that stuff. Wind energy, that type of stuff you hear. But no sooner does he land from this, quote, home run, does his administration take yet another blow. Son-in-law Jared Kushner is now under investigation for his ties to Russia and Russia banks. The Washington Post first reported this past Friday that Kushner, Michael Flynn, and Russian ambassador to the U.S., Sergei Kislyak, had a private meeting in early December during the transition period from Obama to Trump at Trump Tower in New York. During this meeting, Kushner reportedly, quote, discussed the possibility of setting up a secret and secure communications channel between Trump's transition team and the Kremlin, using Russian diplomatic facilities in an apparent move to shield their pre-inauguration discussions from monitoring. In other words, Trump's son-in-law wanted to set up a private server for communication with Russia. A private server. The very same thing that the Trump campaign went after Hillary Clinton for, and Michael Flynn himself led chants at Trump rallies of, lock her up, was the thing that Kushner reportedly had discussions with Russia about. The hypocrisy, ladies and gentlemen, is incredible. On a lighter note, when we come back on the JC Money Show. Hey, Dawn, how's it going?
Living the dream. I'm actually just getting ready to do this commercial.
Oh, you mean the commercial where I tell our listeners to tune into Gear Network every week to listen to our show, Get Ready America? That one?
Yeah, John, that's the one.
They can also listen to us talk about news, sports, whatever's on our minds, that.
And a little what's on our listeners' minds, but they're just too nice to say it.
Well, that, Dawn, is a real humdinger.
Humdinger.
Come join us this and every week for Get Ready America exclusively on the Gear Radio Network.
And the Gear Network app.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm Ryan Wolf.
it's Mr. Perez.
And I have a question for you, Perez.
What's your question?
Do you like to listen to people talk about sports?
No. Of course I like sports and listening to people talk about sports.
Well, guess what? I have the perfect solution for you.
Solution for me?
There's a podcast
Okay.
on this very network.
This network?
Every single week you can hear it.
Really?
New content, latest and breaking news. We talk about baseball, football, hockey, basketball, soccer, UFC, whatever you want to talk about.
So sports in general.
They talk about sports in general. You got it.
I like
you
it.
know the dictionary.
I like
very,
it.
Very proud of you.
Thank you.
I must say, tune in. We are better live than dead.
You're not.
Every single week. You're not going to want to miss it. Exclusively here on the Gear Radio Network.
Strickland now. Here we go. Harper's charging the mound. Oh, my goodness. Whoa. Well, Harper hit 2 home runs against Hunter Strickland in the playoffs in 2014. Strickland drilled him with the first pitch, and Harper took it personally, and I don't blame him. They're trying to carry Hunter Strickland off the field. He's not going away. He is a big, strong dude. Wow.
Got to be careful with Hunter Pence coming out of that injury also with the hamstring.
All right, let's
Harper
watch
right there. Watch this. He points at him. That's where you as a catcher, you better go and stop. Harper.
Never seen anything like this.
It's taking 4 guys, just the 5 guys to control Hunter Strickland right here. One through the bottom, trying to take the legs underneath him. Your own teammates.
And one of those guys is actually going to be the pitcher now, George Contos. Strickland wanted, he's trying to get free from Hunter Pence.
Welcome back, everybody, to the JC Money Show here on the Gear Radio Network and the Gear Network iHeartRadio channel. My name is John Cimino, a.k.a. JC Money, at the JC Money on the Twitter, of course. And on a lighter note, sponsored by our Amazon store. If you visit shopgear.com, if you're going to go shop Amazon anyways, just please type shopgear.com to do that. It will redirect you right to Amazon, but it has our ID in there, and it lets Amazon know that we referred you. That's all. And then you shop Amazon as you normally would, and that helps us out in a very, very, very big way at no additional cost to you. So please and thank you. All right, on a lighter note, Washington Nationals at the New York Giants. They were the former New York Giants about 50-something years ago. The San Francisco Giants. Memorial Day, yesterday. Washington beats San Fran 3-0, but that's not the story. The story, as you heard, coming into this segment, is with 2 outs in the 8th, Giants right-handed pitcher Hunter Strickland hit Bryce Harper in the hip with a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. Harper then charged him out and then threw his helmet. I think he was trying to throw the helmet at Hunter Strickland, but he threw that very poorly. But what he did not throw poorly at all was a right hand that caught Hunter Strickland right in the face. Strickland then also landed a right, but as that hit connected, the benches cleared and all hell broke loose. The thought was that this was in retaliation for a postseason home run that Harper hit in 2014 off of Strickland, which went deep into McCovey Cove, and as it was doing that, Harper stopped and stared in the batter's box before raising his hand and rounding first, and then stared at Strickland on the mound. Now, of all of the charging the mound fights that have happened, where does this one rank? I'm going to leave this up to you guys. I want you to let me know where this ranks. But I did ask a few other people about which one ranks, and then my personal favorite one, will never be topped. But I'll go through what I have so far. But if you have more, certainly shoot them over to me at TheJCMoney on the Twitter or Facebook.com/TheJCMoney. But Kyle Farnsworth and Paul Wilson, where Kyle Farnsworth actually came off the mound and took Paul Wilson down. Wilson was playing for the Chicago Cubs, Farnsworth was playing for the Chicago Cubs. Wilson was playing for old Bretsky's Cincinnati Reds. There was, of course, Tino Martinez and Armando Benitez from 1998, Yankees, Orioles. That series that was pretty intense. Although that particular incident was in May of 1998. Of course, the Yankees then went on to win the World Series that year. Just saying. Hopefully they'll do it this year too. But nothing, in my honest opinion, beats my all-time favorite brawl, where Robin Ventura in 1994 tried charging at Nolan Ryan. And old man Nolan Ryan, who at that point had been pitching for 20-something years at that point. Old as could be. Here's Robin Ventura. Gets hit by a pitch. It was, I believe it was a hit right to the back. And he comes charging, and Ryan out of nowhere hits him with a headlock and just starts punching the crap out of his face. It was great. You know what I'll do is maybe I'll get all these YouTube links and I will post these on the JC Money fan page as well, so you guys can take a look and see some of these great fights. And if there's more, post them. Let me know what you think, because again, I like to talk about things because I like to talk. So that's that. And that is my dog barking, if you could hear that in the background. You be quiet back there. Between my 3-year-old and my dog, I tell you what, I don't know. But, all right, so later on this week, or maybe next week, I'm not sure exactly when they release podcasts now, but the Misguided Musings, our friends from the Musing Podcast, the Musing Network, formerly of the Gear Network, but they have branched out on their own, and the Misguided Musings clan is doing their own podcast and their own network now, and, you know, we're still friendsies, as we've both indicated on podcasts. It was a very, very, very professional, amicable, friendly split. They're doing their own thing right now, and I am making an appearance on their next podcast. So when that comes out, I will be sure to plug that as well, so you can listen in. And the topic of discussion is law enforcement. Now, we talk about funny law enforcement stories on there, but, I mean, before that, in the first time, we just kind of go all over the place. So, it's a good listen. So again, that would be the 39th and a half episode. Just kidding. Their last episode on Gear was episode 39, but it's really their 45th episode of the Misguided Musing Podcast. I will be on there as a special guest for the entire podcast. So when that comes, you should listen into that. Also, this format, I just want to, remind you guys, this format that we have here, I'm toying with it. I kind of like the news you need to know, and I kind of like the sports. And on the lighter note, I'm tweaking it. It's as we go along, but I will let you know that I do have guests lined up. Like I said, I will be recording interviews very soon, so these podcasts may go a little longer, but we're going to have stories to tell, fun times, guest hosts, things like that. I'm going to build this particular show up pretty good to complement Get Ready America when we do those special podcasts, because I think they're still great podcasts. I enjoy doing Get Ready America with Dawn, but this is kind of the weekly thing, whereas Get Ready America is the big HBO show at night. But again, I will take all the feedback, good or bad, at TheJCMoney on the Twitter and Facebook.com/TheJCMoney. Go ahead, give me a shout. Let me know what you think. And as always, I thank you very much for everything that you do to support this program and this network. That's going to do it for this edition of the JC Money Show here on the Gear Radio Network's iHeartRadio channel. That's right. Of course, you can listen to it every day on iHeartRadio if you wish. And at the end of the week, every JC Money Show episode will be available for download on the Gear Network Spreaker page. Visit shopgear.com to do all of your Amazon shopping. Of course, that helps us out. That sustains this program and sustains all of the other programming on the network as well. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you shopping. Tune in next time for an all-new edition of the JC Money Show. When I post it, it'll be right here first on iHeartRadio, Gear Network style. So long, everybody. Good night now. The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.